welcome back to Red Devils Talk, brought to you by the Elite Football Show. I hope you're having a nice international break, and I hope lockdown is going well for you, everyone in the UK. And I'm delighted to be joined by my usual fantastic co-host today, Pauly. How are you doing, mate? How are you finding this international break?
The international break is great. As always, it is a nice little change of pace, a little mundane. The Mets got sold to a new owner, and he came on and gave a press conference yesterday and just talked about how mediocrity is not acceptable, making the playoffs isn't acceptable. We want to win everything. And it just goes to show you how quickly an owner can endear himself to a fan base by simply giving an F. And that's a note for any other owners who may be out there.
Let's hope the same thing happens with Man United's next owners. Mark, nice shirt today. Looks a little bit retro. How are you doing today, mate? It's good to see you. It's been a while, hasn't it? I feel like I haven't seen you for forever.
I mean, heart grows fonder, right? When you've been absent and all that. So I saw you last Wednesday. I have changed scenery tonight, though. I need to sort the shifty curtains out. There's a lot more pictures to go up, but yeah, new scenery. So I'm happy. Get in there.
Nice one, mate. And Ciaran, how are you doing, my Irish friend? How is things across the pond? I don't know why I said
things are grand across the pond or sea or whatever we'll call it. We're probably the same as you. We're all depressed because we can't go to the pub. So yeah, we're stuck in lockdown until the start of December, I think it is. So hopefully Christmas is semi-normal this year, but I doubt it. And I just have one question: is where are the Van de Beek curtains? Still don't have them up.
Yeah, well, he's going to be in my favourite 11 tonight. So ever. But yeah, I'm going to have to get some Van de Beek curtains. You're absolutely right.
He's barely even in the Dutch 11 for this game that they're playing, and he's out on the field. But it's not. I mean, the Dutch are boring, but Van de Beek ain't doing anything himself.
And last but not least, Joe, how are you doing today, mate? It's good to see you. It's been a little while, hasn't it?
Yeah, let's get cracking, mate.
I love it. And to Jamie, hello, mate. Good evening. And Helly as well. Nice to see you here. Thank you for getting involved. Guys, if you're watching this on Twitter, get over to YouTube, type in Elite Football Show and watch it on there. Please hit the subscribe button as well. We're only 11 off 700, so that'd be great. So we've got something a little bit different today. We're going to take it away from sort of more the tactics and Ollie and all that. And we're just going to talk about a few of the rumours. We're going to talk about Ronaldo today because we all love Cristiano Ronaldo. And we're going to talk about whether that can actually happen. Then we're going to talk about our favourite United 11. That's only players we've seen. We're all quite young here, Marc and Joe, so ours might be a little bit different. And then we've got the best moment of games you've seen at United. And we want you guys to get involved in the comments. We want you guys to tell us your favourite 11 as well and, getting involved. Loads of interaction today. We're going to talk about our favourite United signings as well. We already know Mark's is Van der Beek. And then who's United's best number 7? Remember, guys, we are a little bit younger, so I don't think anyone will be choosing George best. So don't attack us in the comments for that. Anyway, let's go straight into it now, and let's talk about the Ronaldo rumours. Every single summer, we see Cristiano Ronaldo is linked with Manchester United. Now, I thought he would come back, honestly, after Real Madrid. I thought, there was a possibility, and after he went to Juventus, I thought possibly the ship has sailed. I do usually say it's not going to happen, but there's something to this, Joe. I don't know. I feel like he's not happy at Juventus. I could very much see Woodward going and making a signing like this. I can very much see Ollie wanting someone of Ronaldo's stature and experience to come in. It's not too out of the ordinary to imagine Ronaldo joining Man United, is it?
No, I think, again, like you said, though, it's just the timing that's a bit odd. Like, I think it's something that I thought, like you, would have happened if it was going to happen maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not saying there's never a place for Cristiano Ronaldo in this team, but, like, where does he play at the moment? We've just brought Cavani, obviously, this summer to play that sort of central role. We've obviously got Martial playing there as well and Rashford. I'm not saying for 1 minute that those guys are better than Ronaldo. That's the reason not to sign him. I just think in that area of the field, we are quite loaded at the moment. But yeah, I buy into this about him not being happy at Juventus. It's not really happened, has it? I think he's been there a couple of years now. There was no doubt why he was bought. He was bought to bring them the next sort of Champions League and to win that for them. And obviously he's not quite managed to get that over the line, but that's not just him. Obviously, as a team, they've not really performed in that competition in the latter stages. But no, to answer your question, it's not impossible seeing him coming back. It's just the timing of it. But again, I just think even at his age and where he's at in his career, I think I'd still love to see him just play one more time in the United shirt, because I do feel like the way he left, there was nothing bad about the way he left, but he was just so good for us that it's just a shame that that's the way it has to end, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Heli asked a good question here, Ciaran. Can he play right wing? I would not be playing him there. He's an out-and-out striker. You bring him in to score goals. He's an absolute poacher. He's a killer. And Joseph says here, hi, Joseph. Hope you're doing well, mate. Big Ron would more likely take over for Neymar at PSG. Possibility as well. What do you think, Ciaran? What's your 2 cents worth on Cristiano Ronaldo potentially joining Man United?
Yeah, just the first one to go on that PSG comment was that I'm pretty sure that Neymar's in discussions to sign a new deal for PSG, so that probably wouldn't happen. Look, if you bring Cristiano back home, he plays up top, striker. I don't care who else is at the club, whether it's Cavani, Martial, if there was somebody else, Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, I think I saw a stat today, he scores a goal every 48 minutes. So you play him up front. What have we been saying for a while now? That when Martial's not playing, and to be fair, he's not the best hold-up player at striker. He's the best one we have at the club. But look, you need a proper striker out there. You need someone that scores goals. We say that all the time. We don't score enough. And Cristiano Ronaldo, not only would it be something to tug at a lot of fans' heartstrings, because to bring him back after he kind of built his career up from United and to Madrid, to him to be able to finish it at United would be something nice to be able to kind of bring on that story. It kind of reminds me of the whole Michael Jordan documentary. Just bring him back for whether it's a year or two. Look, I'd rather have a 35-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo than when we had a 35 or 36-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So for me, if there's the possibility of doing it, we need more experience in that team. Get them back home.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair comment. I mean, I'm going to bring you in, Mark. I know you have a lot to say about this. Cristiano Ronaldo back at Manchester United. Are we just getting a bit ahead of ourselves? Are we too sentimental? Are we too romantic about it? Or is there actually, if you break it down, is there a bit of plausibility, and could it actually make sense making a move like that?
Yeah, I think it very well. It would be wonderful to have him back. I think you're absolutely right. When he was playing at Real Madrid, I really thought that he'd come back that summer, and it would be a wonderful thing for happen. I think I'd be in tears if it happened. I think everyone would love to see that. The only thing I will say is, we've just bought in Cavani, and now please don't jump on me here. I'm not saying that Ronaldo wouldn't play week in, week out as the main number 9, but when you've got Martial, when you've got Rashford, and you want those players to come through, and when you've just bought in Cavani, that's another huge amount of wages that we're paying. And I know he's on a year deal with the potential for another one.
You can break the contract after a year. I mean, that would work perfectly, wouldn't it? So you get Cavani in.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you bring Ronaldo in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the only summer we weren't talking about bringing him in was last summer, when we were all about Jadon Sancho and everyone else. And if the rumours are true that he's not happy at Juve, which is quite a possibility, it hasn't quite, as Joe rightly said, it hasn't quite happened for him. Then by all means, maybe United need to really make that statement signing that isn't going to be as dear now. It would be, as you say, a huge romantic thing for him to come back and perhaps end his career at United. And maybe it's written in the stars that's what's going to happen. And it would be a lovely, lovely thing. And as I said, I think I'll be in bits, to be honest. I see a lot of things on Twitter, especially not last summer, the summer before, when after Ronaldo scored against us for Juve, it might have been last summer I saw this, and when he scored against us for Real, and the fact that he, was very much celebrating, and fans were on his back saying, what an awful thing to do, don't want him at my club, not at my club, and all this rubbish. But I think you need to think about this pragmatically. And he is still a wonderful player, 35, probably something that we're missing in the middle, because obviously we've not seen Cavani sort of hit the ground running and score headed goals. We've not seen Tellers whipping in those wonderful balls. So perhaps it's meant to be, and it could be an incredible thing to have, and maybe that it ticks so many boxes, doesn't it? The big star, the Woodward signing, someone that can really come in and as you say, a romantic thing to come in and to finish his career at United. It'd be I'll be in bits. I'll be in absolute bits.
Yeah, I'm going to read out a few comments before I bring you in, Pauly. As Hedy said, he's so fit. I mean, he lived in Manchester. I hope you mean he's so fit as in he's, football fit. Joe,
he's
you're
good,
mute, by the way.
He's good at bleep tests.
Isn't he? To be fair to him, yeah. He knows the Premier League.
I think she means fitness, Haider. I think she means he's fit.
Yeah,
as in,
I think so. Well,
no, yeah. Why would she say he's fit the other way, mate? He's certainly not. I mean, he's ugly, isn't he?
And then she says here, Ollie was his striker coach. It's all good. Jamie's got a good point here as well, Pauly. He still has 3 good years left in him at the top level. But let me pop a sort of pin in the balloon a little bit, Pauly. £28 million a year is his salary. We're going into COVID times, so it looks like that's unlikely. Would you rather us go back in for Jadon Sancho, who could give you a lot more longevity, or would you be thinking, right, you signed Diallo, you signed Palestri, Cristiano Ronaldo can take you from top 4 challengers to Premier League challengers?
Yeah, I wouldn't pay money for Cristiano Ronaldo. If he came. If it's a Cavani or an Ibrahimovic deal where he's coming on a free and we're just paying the massive wages and the massive agents fees, that's one thing. But this is a team that has a lot of holes in their squad that suddenly didn't have the money for Jadon Sancho, and Jack Grealish is someone we needed, but that was too expensive. All these transfer fees. To pay a massive transfer fee for 35-year-old Ronaldo, unless he is the absolute last piece of the puzzle, which he's not, then you're probably like, what's the trade-off? He's not the last piece of the puzzle. If he's the last piece of the puzzle and he's taking you to winning the Premier League and maybe the Champions League, then you do it. But if he's not, then you're just tying yourself up with more long-term financial implications that we can't really afford, and not to mention there is a dark side of this. Legally, he's got some issues. Coming out of COVID times, once we get back to normal, which who knows what kind of financial hit we're taking from COVID, because when the hell are fans coming in here? But when we do get back and we want to go on a preseason tour, which is how we make a lot of money. Like, you can't go to the United States because he's going to be arrested the second he sets foot in the United States. And that's a huge Ed Woodward market, which is why Juventus have bent over backwards to avoid going to the United States since he's joined them. It goes back to everything that you said, Haider, was we hear about this every year, and that's why the timing to me just doesn't make sense, because we do hear about it every year, around November when the international break comes and there's nothing else to talk about. It's the same way that Paul Pogba gets linked to Real Madrid. They always seem to link us back to a homecoming with Cristiano Ronaldo. It has never happened. I think the sentiment with Ronaldo, he was very close to joining us in 2013, but then Sir Alex retired, and then he never really, we were linked to him all the time, but he never really he never really took it seriously. And I think the sentiment...
Pauly, do you mean, hold on. You mean when he gets arrested, are you talking about what you're talking about? You're talking about the rape case. Is that what you're talking about? Okay. You're talking about the rape case.
Yeah. So I think the sentiment for him was less Manchester United and more Sir Alex. And if anything, again, he has a connection to Ollie. He was teammates with Ollie. Ollie was the strikers coach when he.
Hold on, I think we've lost Pauly here, guys.
What a great face.
I think we lost you, Pauly. Just jump out and jump back in. we're going to talk about.
I think I'm back.
You're back now. Yeah,
All
go
right,
on, mate.
So I was going to say, he does have a connection with Ollie, but I think part of the reason that it's not working out for him at Juventus is they keep chopping and changing managers. And if Ollie's not here, and his connection to the club is just again, was the Sir Alex factor. So I think where's the trust that, if I sign for 3 years, I'm going to be playing under the same system for the next 3 years.
It's a fair point. I think I'd like to think that Ronaldo doesn't, he would come back regardless of who the manager is. I'd like to think he likes United enough. For me, I think that really shouldn't really be a factor. But I'm just a bit unsure on this one because I just don't see how United have the money post the season, another season which looks like no fans. I can't see fans coming in. Maybe March, if that. And that's a big, that's a massive sort of, 110 million off United's bottom line. And if we couldn't buy anyone this summer, the next summer, guys, I think we've got to probably buckle ourselves in for another frustrating window. Joe, have you got anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, I was just
agreed.
Like, do we see anything in a potential? I don't want to join the Paul Pogba leaving bandwagon, but maybe a Paul Pogba deal. Obviously, I know he's been linked with going back to Juve as well as Real Madrid. Look, I'm not sure how that deal works in terms of, I don't know how long Ronaldo's got left on his contract. I don't know how much he's valued at, but is there some scope to do something there?
I would give that like a 2% chance of happening, but it's also probably the only way I see Pogba leaving this summer.
Yeah, I did read that Paul Pogba could go for potentially 54 million, and there could be a potential.
If you get 54 million for Paul Pogba in this climate, you take that and run.
Yes.
Yeah, look, I think the way it's going to be is this transfer window that comes up next summer, you're going to see a lot more swap deals because teams won't be able to afford any sort of big transfer fees, especially if there are no people in the stands for a whole year.
I was surprised we didn't see more swap deals this summer, to be fair. I thought they'd be a lot more prevalent this year, but I just don't think there was that player to one club, player to other opportunities, if you know what I mean. I think that it would have happened if there was a player that two clubs negotiating for two players were mutual likes, if you know what I mean. But that
it has to be such a specific situation of we want that player, and the other team has to have the player that they want, that you want to give away. We saw a lot of teams say, we'll give you 5 million plus these 3 players. And the other team was like, well, the reason that you're offering those 3 players because they're crap and you don't want them. Like, neither do we. So
you got to look at it as well.
So many different things.
You got to look as well that people are going to be balancing the clubs are going to be balancing the books with FFP. You just have to look at the Artur and with what's his name?
Pjanic.
Pjanic. That was the weirdest one, but that was purely FFP to balance the books for both sides. Guys, we're going to move on. Yeah.
So before we move on, can I say one thing? The guy that's called Newton Heath. Can any of you lot tell me who Newton Heath are?
Newton Heath is what United used to be.
United used to be called.
Okay, fine.
Even I knew that.
Okay,
come on, Mark.
Just testing you.
No.
Should we kick him off the stream now?
Yeah, that deserves to be kicked off the stream.
Let me tell you, 1934.
I used to have a Newton Heath season ticket back.
1934 is when they changed the name. Okay, good. Bit of general knowledge for you.
Moving on, guys. We're going to talk about our favourite United 11. Now, this could get a little bit heated. Only players that you've seen, guys. So all of you in the comments, we want you to get involved and want you to tell us your 1 to 11, your favourite United 11. So it doesn't have to be the best United 11, just the one that you liked the most. So we're going to start with the defence. Now, this might get a little bit chaotic today, guys. So we've got to
wait, is this the 11 that we like the most, or like in each position the player that I like?
The player.
Okay.
Yeah, player.
Well, then I don't think it'll be too heated.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to start. We're going to start with the goalkeepers, right? So we've got a bit of an embarrassment of riches. Oh, remember, it's only players you've seen. So I'm 25, so I haven't seen many United keepers to be. Well, I have actually, but they're not very good. I'm going to start. I'm going to go Edwin van der Sar. Quickly, I'll tell you why. Because he probably played in my most favorite United side that I can remember, which is the 08, well, sort of the 05 to 08 team, 09 team. And I just think he's an absolute legend. We went like 13 games without conceding. I just thought he was such a great leader as well. And I think he's a great guy, and I love him back at United as a CEO, perhaps, or a director of football at some stage. Pauly, on to you, mate.
David De Gea, because he's unbelievable and he's the best one that we've had. It's that simple.
Fair enough. Mark, you're on mute, mate.
Yeah, Peter Schmeichel. I am 32 years old, so I've got a little bit more of an array of goalkeepers to choose from. And for me, Peter Schmeichel, I remember one particular time, I can't remember what season it was. Schmeichel was injured. He had no reserve goalkeeper to play him instead of him. And I remember against Spurs, you could clearly see he was really, really dogged, and it let in 4 goals and we lost 4-1. And he was a huge, huge goalkeeper for us.
Love it, mate. I mean, United are lucky; they've had 3 absolutely world-class top keepers. You could say probably 3 of the best in the Premier League era. Ciaran, are you going to be joining me, Pauly, or Marc?
Well, while it was a tough decision to go with all them or Fabian Barthez, I'm going to go with Marc, with Peter Schmeichel. He was the goalkeeper I grew up watching, and he just had that aura about him that it was just like that really difficult force to get past, because very similar to De Gea, he made saves and you're thinking, how the hell did he do that? I think Van der Sar is probably the most consistent out of them all, but there was just something about Peter Schmeichel that when somebody asked me, how can you describe a top class goalkeeper, he's the first person that comes to mind. It was always, for me at that time, it was between him and Oliver Kahn for the 2 best goalkeepers in the world. And for me, it's very hard for me to pick anyone other than Peter Schmeichel.
Very, very fair comment. Joe, quickly to round off, who are you choosing?
Well, I'm old, aren't I, mate? So I'd probably go for Harry Gregg or something, mate. No, I think it's a tough one, mate. I'm sort of torn between either David De Gea or John O'Shea. But I think I'm gonna go for David. I just think the reason I give it David is just because for me, he just saves shots that I've never seen other keepers save, other United keepers and other keepers around Europe. The one that always comes to mind is the one at Anfield that he saved with his foot once, I think 3 yards out 2 or 3 seasons ago. And let's not forget, he won the Player of the Year for us at the club for 3 years running, and God knows where United would have finished in the league those 2 seasons. I'm
not sure that speaks volumes for anyone else, really, does it?
No, but that's what I'm saying. But I mean, I think I don't know exactly where we finished those seasons, but we were in the top half of the table, and I do think if it had to be for De Gea, we could have had a season outside the top half.
100%. Joseph, you must love pain. You love watching Barthez. Maybe for
just chip him.
I do remember that time when he had the penalties against him, and he took forever to kick his studs on the post.
He saved them though,
and he saved them, and that was brilliant.
Something David can't do, save penalties. Anyway, guys, we're going to move on quickly to the defense.
Can I just say quickly, Haider, on Barthez? I will say quickly, he was one of the first keepers to be very good with his feet, though. That's what people forget.
That's why they signed him.
I say good with his feet. He gave a few to Henry, obviously, but this idea of a goalkeeper being good with his feet. He was one of the pioneers of that. So I mean, credit to him for that.
It's a good point. Guys, move on to defense. We're going to talk. We'll do our full back 4. I'm assuming everyone's going back 4. So who do I like the most? I'll be honest. I'm going for Raphael at right back. He played with so much passion. I'm not going for Gary Neville because when I was younger, Gary Neville wasn't very good. Obviously, in my early sort of time as a United fan, he was, but he was so bad when I was there. And the Raphael played with passion. And I can't really say until Wan-Bissaka's come in, I thought Valencia was okay, but yeah, it's Raphael for me. Played with passion. I thought he's great going forward. A bit rash, but I love that. But love the passion about him. I can't look past Rio and Vidic. No explanation there. And left back will be Evra. I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it? Where we've been nearly 7 years since Sir Alex. I don't think any of them come into my back 4. Go on, Pauly. Who are you choosing?
Rio, Vidic. Probably at left back. Maybe we'll slot in Ashley Young. No, I'm kidding. It's that was a look from here. No, it's Patrice Evra and Raphael. I don't know if I recognize the passion. I remember his first game. I think his first game. If it wasn't his first game, it was his second against Aalborg in the Champions League, and he came on or he started, and I was just like, "Who is this guy?" I had no idea. And the way he just ran up and down that pitch almost seemed reckless at times, but the way he got forward, he was so much fun to watch. Especially when your alternatives for the first 2 years of his career were John O'Shea or Gary or a very old and slow Gary Neville. Like we haven't had a right back as much fun to watch, as Haider said, until Wan-Bissaka came in. And Raphael is still more fun to watch.
Yeah, he is. And Joseph says here, Dennis Irwin. I wish I was old enough. I mean, if I was, then that would be my choice. But unfortunately, I'm not old enough. Mark, who are you choosing for your back four? Are you similar to all of us? Because that back four we've just mentioned was class, wasn't it?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I was going to go Raphael as well. I think I remember Gary's younger days where defensively he was brilliant. And going forward and the interchange with Beckham, and this is what we asked for from Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, is exactly what Gary and Beckham used to do, and it was brilliant. But I will go for Raphael because he had so much passion. He was exciting to watch. He was a little bit suspect defensively, but I tell you what, he wore the badge, and he still does now. The tweets and stuff that he has, brilliant.
Even how he played against us for best next year, he was awesome. I thought. He was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, and he probably used that as an opportunity and a pedestal to come back and play against the club he loves. So Raphael probably for me as well. Dennis Irwin was a phenomenal left back, but for me, because of how much positivity Evra instills and how funny he is, and the Instagram posts that I see religiously, he is brilliant and I love him, and he's a great United advocate, and I'm going to go with him just for purely for banter and positivity. Yeah. And then for the back two, I mean, it could be Rio, Vidic, or Stam. Stam was an absolute brick shit house.
He was the best out of them all, mate. Stam.
He was. So I think for me, and I know you want to use a quick centre back and a stalwart centre back, but I'm going to go for the opposite of that. I'm going to have Stam and Vidic. Rio, obviously very close, but Stam and Vidic for me.
Nice one, Ciaran. I'm going to bring you in. Who's your back four?
Yeah, just because I'm going to do a little bit different. Raphael was one that I was thinking of, but again, it's difficult. Gary Neville, growing up, I watched him pretty much every single week, and he was phenomenal. I always remember it would always be him on throw-ins. He would always be kind of darting past the right winger, which was normally David Beckham at the time, until kind of Beck's left and then Ronaldo came in. So he was just a staple of the team, and it's hard not to give it to him. The other two options I think you have are Wes Brown, and even to one that Mark said just as a joke, or was it Joe that said as a joke, John O'Shea. I think he played quite well, but I'm actually going to go with Gary Neville because he was just very good for a very long time. Raphael was exciting, but it wasn't as long as I think Gary Neville was. My centre-back partnership are just because they're two absolute beasts was Nemanja Vidic and Jaap Stam. They're really hard to pass. Another one that kind of came to mind, I always enjoyed watching Ronnie Johnson as well. I thought he was good.
Yeah.
And then left back, I know I would have said Patrice Evra, but just to be a little bit contrarian, I'm going to go with Dennis Irwin because I think he...
Good. I expected you to go for that. I'd be surprised if you didn't.
He was just one of those players that he reminded me a little bit, not in the same mold, but kind of like what we have with Juan Mata now, that the presence that he had was so good. And he was only there for a couple of years when I was growing up, but he'd be on free kicks, he'd be on penalties, and you'd expect him to score. And he was really good defensively as well. So for me to kind of finalize my defense, I would say Dennis Irwin at left back.
Yeah, absolutely. And SM
he was
agreed as
Mr.
well.
Reliable.
Owen, Mr. Reliable, completely agreed. Joe, I'm going to come to you. Who are you going for?
Yeah, well, Ciaran had to get his Irish boys in there. He had to get a shout out for the deal, John and Dennis. But he's spot on about Dennis. I'm glad he said it, to be fair. I mean, a lot of people won't remember, but Dennis was so reliable on free kicks and penalties. I mean, and this was during a time when Eric was at the club as well, and sometimes even Dennis would take penalties. Mate, he was super reliable. And, yeah, fantastic professional, great team player. But for me, I'm going to go Evra in that left back spot again. I just love the way. What I want to give kudos to Evra for is he came in, and if you remember in the January when he came, he really struggled alongside the man. And it would have been really easy, especially for, I don't want to be stereotypical, but a sort of foreign player coming to the league just to shy away and hide away and everything like that. But to be fair to him, he stuck at it. You know, he wanted to become a United player. And didn't he just? I mean, like, the boys have already said it. You know, he just epitomised what a Man United player was by the end, and he continues today. When I was doing this team originally, I did have Ferdinand and Vidic because I just thought what a partnership they were. And obviously, I think they were involved in that world record. Is it clean sheets? Was it 11 games in that 08, 09 season?
14, I think it was, wasn't it?
Stands, obviously, Edwin played a big part in that as well. But I'm going to have to go for Stam, I think. But alongside Ferdinand, I just like the idea of having the hard man and someone who's quite quick. And
also, quickly.
I think it was only Evra that played in every game during that run, though.
Yeah, I think it was Evra. But I was going to say quickly, Joe, on Jaap Stam, I do firmly believe that if he hadn't left United would have won at least a couple more Champions Leagues. That's how good he was. And when he went, and obviously there are a lot of stories behind it, but Jaap Stam, United would be sitting here with probably five.
I've got a quick stat for you on Dennis Irwin. He had 22 goals from the penalty spot. He only ever missed one, but he scored it from the rebound.
Yeah, well, they are then. That's Mr. Reliable. But that's the thing for me. Like, I'm saying there, Stam's a hard man in that defence. Let's not forget he was Dutch. He was very good on the ball as well. You know, he was more than capable at passing the ball, and he scored his fair share of goals for United as well. He was always present in the corners, and then at right back, I've got to go Rafael. Yeah, I think Valencia had a couple of good seasons playing as a right back, but only a couple of decent seasons. So I have to go Rafael. Just his energy and his ability to get forward, and he had a worldie in the locker. He didn't get it out much, but he had that ability to score pretty good goals. He got one at Anfield, I think it was, wasn't it? So
yeah,
we don't mention that game though.
All right, you mentioned it.
No, look, guys, we're gonna go to Ciaran's face. Guys, we're gonna go on to the midfield.
I feel like I've done something wrong. What have I done?
Do you remember the score of that game?
Was it 3-1 or something? Or 4-1, wasn't it? Yeah.
4-1.
We didn't win though, so we don't mention that game.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it was a worldie nonetheless.
Let him have the moment, Ciaran. Guys, we're going to move on to the midfield. Joe, I'm going to start with you. We'll go around a different way. I'm going to go 4 in midfield. Remember, this is who we've seen and who we really like. It's got to be David Beckham for me on that right-hand side. He is one of the main... I guess one of the main reasons for me, of being very young, why I loved Man United. I just thought he was the most beautiful sort of set piece taker. He had the most amazing technique. And I just absolutely loved him. I think people forget how good a player he actually was. And when you hear people say, oh, Trent's as good at him as passing, it's just the disrespect, because Beckham did it year in, year out, and his technique was amazing. So David Beckham, for me, he was my favorite player for a long time. And then looking at the midfield, well, I'm going to put Ronaldo on the left, because I just don't think you can leave out Ronaldo. Again, my favorite United side was that sort of that treble, three titles in a row side, the one where we won the Champions League, sort of the 08 side. I just thought he was incredible, and I'd love him back at United. For me, it's very sentimental, but I think he'd be class. Michael Carrick is going to sit there as well in my midfield. Jamie's reading my mind a little bit. Oh, that's not Jamie. Here's Jamie here. Ronaldo, Carrick, Scholes. Oh, he's put Giggs in there. This is going to be really controversial. I'm going to put Carrick in because I think he's very underrated, and this Man United side needs someone like Carrick. But I'm going to put Bruno in there. This is crazy, but I'm going to put Bruno as the final one in my midfield. I'll tell you why. and this is me being a little bit, I suppose, maybe sentimental, but I love Scholes. And I loved Kino as well. But for me, we've had 7 years of bad signings, and we haven't had a player come in and change it. And being 25 years old now, after we had all the success, Bruno coming in has made me love United a little bit more now. It's made me enjoy watching United, and he's come in with the same sort of passion that we saw from the players that used to play under Fergie. Yeah, he's not the best player that's ever played for United, but he's made me feel like there's players at the club now who still get it, what it means to play for United. So a bit controversial, but I'm going for Bex, who I think a lot of people will have, Carrick, Bruno, and I'm going for Ronaldo. Joe, who are you choosing?
Yeah, well, again, I'm old, so Charlton and Best are in there for me, mate, because I got to see them play. That's how old I am. No, I'm not going to let you let that go, mate. No, I think the other thing that Beckham's got on Trent as well, by the way, he's better defensively than what Trent is. Not only is he a better passer of the ball. So, Bex has got a lot on Trent. Don't worry about that. No, Bex doesn't make my team, and only because I've got to get Ronaldo in there, and he doesn't get in as a striker. I'm going to play 4-4-2. So I'm going to put Ronaldo out on the right wing just because I just had to find a way of getting him. In my lifetime, he's the only United player to have won the Ballon d'Or while playing for United. So obviously that's why he has to get in there for me. Obviously, Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or, but not while playing for United. So, that's why he done nowhere near Martino with that. So, yeah, so Ronaldo on the right. I've got to go for Scholes and Keane in the middle. Just the volume of goals that Paul Scholes scored for United, and just, he was a 20-goal a season, man. He was doing what Gerrard and Lampard was doing before they even dreamt of doing it. So
but for some reason, people put him at the bottom of the pile when it comes to
well,
those
yeah,
three.
but I think even when you ask pundits, even if you ask Gerrard, he'll even admit that Scholes probably better than him and Lampard. And I think the people in the game know, the people who play against Paul Scholes know, he was just so hard to pick up and mark, wasn't he? The late trademark runs that he used to make into the box.
Wasn't a 20-goal-a-year player, though.
Say again?
I said he wasn't a 20-goal-a-season player.
No,
he had a 20-goal season.
He had a lot of seasons where he did get 20 goals, to be fair. I think
he had one.
Okay, well, you probably got the stats in front of me. That's fair enough, mate. That's all right.
Pauly's ripping him.
But listen, I just feel like that the role he played in midfield, the goals he did score from there, were vital for United. He scored important goals. And then I've got to have Giggs on the left as well for me. On the left wing, I think Giggs, just because, again, treble season, the goal he scored against Arthur. But I remember Giggs when he first came into the team as well. I know that I'm making myself feel really old now. But, like nothing we'd ever seen before. The way he used to get up and down that left wing, obviously your era, Haider, your memory of football, he was sort of becoming a different player by the time, you would have been going to the ground and watching him. So, I just think Giggs was just different on that left wing, and just so the way he used to take on play.
He used to glide, didn't he?
Yeah, and I just think with Ever as well, that left side would have been devastating. So, yeah. Sorry,
great shouts.
Season, man, but did score a lot of goals.
Absolutely, Ciaran. I'm going to bring you in quickly. Do you agree with us, or are you going to go a bit more radical?
It's pretty close to what Joe said. It's the only difference is I actually don't have Cristiano Ronaldo in the team, even though he's one of my favorite players. The main reason is I just think when you're looking at a right winger, what Beckham gave United was crazy. The fact that he didn't win a Ballon d'Or that 98-99 season was ridiculous. He was by far one of the best players in the world. Then both for country and for his club. He was the first, I think, global superstar that was in football. You had, I know there was a lot of players that were really popular in the Premier League at the time, and rightfully so. Becks was kind of the first one that kind of catapulted football on that big level where you saw him all over the world, where you could have gone anywhere. And if you asked someone, did they know who David Beckham was? They knew. And it wasn't just his celebrity. He was that good when he was actually playing. If you asked Beckham to put the ball in a specific spot, he could do it and without thinking. You just have to go back to one of the testimonials he played at about 5-6 years ago, and he could still do it. He was still the best crosser, and that game still had the likes of Rooney and all playing. He was ridiculous. My midfield duo are the exact same as Joe. Roy Keane and Paul Scholes are two of the best central midfielders I've ever seen play for Manchester United. For me, Roy Keane is probably the best captain I've ever seen for Manchester United. And look, I'd say most people that have probably seen more Premier League team or more Man United teams than I have would probably agree that he was the best captain. Paul Scholes, the talent that he had was ridiculous. When he needed to go and be the more defensive midfielder, he could do it. When he needed to go and get in the box and score a goal, he could do it. The ones that always kind of stick out to me are that goal against Aston Villa from the corner, the one against Newcastle. He was ridiculous. He was a very, very good player, and I don't care what stats have to say about Paul Scholes. I know with my eyes that he was much better than most other Premier League midfielders. And then I don't think you can take Giggsy off the list. He was that good. You just knew anytime it was going down the left, you would hope that it was a one-on-one with Giggs because he was going to be able to get past the defender. I think the problem that he had for a while is it was nice when Everett kind of came in because it gave him that kind of space as well. But he was one that gave defenders nightmares before you play. That when Giggs had the ball, you saw defenders step back a pace or two because they knew if they didn't that he'd beat them. And the fact is, even when he lost his pace, he was able to change his game to still be able to score in the Premier League. I think he scored the most, not the most amount of goals, but in the most consecutive Premier League seasons, he kept scoring at least a goal.
League season.
And even
scored in every
even as he got older,
until his final one.
But like you go tell me a midfielder that played for that long that could
I
that.
was just saying that's the 40. Consecutive mark was he scored in every one until his last one, which speaks to his longevity.
From midfield, Ciaran.
Paul
Scholes scored a lot of goals from midfield, didn't he, Ciaran?
He did indeed.
I just think back then as well, like that wasn't such a big thing back then. You know, we expect it now. We expect
the other thing is Paul Scholes retired, came back, and became probably the best midfielder in the United midfield for another 2 seasons. There's not many players that can go and do that, not play for a whole year, come back, and really be able to get straight back into it again
and win a title. Yeah, absolutely, Ciaran. That's some great choices. Mark, I'm going to bring you in. Do you agree with us, guys? Do you agree with Ciaran, or have you got something different?
I could give you 3 or 4 different combinations of midfields, and you would be overly happy with what I've given you. Now, I'm going to go slightly different. That's only because, if Fergie says that Ronaldo was the best player he worked with, then I'm going to have to agree with him too. He was really good to watch. So I'm going to put him on the left. I'm going to have, again, I could have put Park in there. I could have put, I'm going to put Ryan in there, but I could have put Roy Keane in there. I could have put Carrick in there. They were all brilliant players, and I would take absolutely any one of them. So I'm going to put Ryan in the centre of the park, but only because he used to play on the wing, but then he was actually dropped back into midfield and an inside left midfielder in his later years. So I'm going to put him there, and I'm going to put Scholes there. I don't care what anyone has to say about any other midfielder, Gerrard, Lampard, whoever. Paul Scholes is the best midfielder I have ever seen, and his passing accuracy was incredible. So I don't want to ever listen to any other alternatives. So Paul Scholes, day in, day out. And then on the right for me, David Beckham. He was an absolute incredible player to watch. I absolutely loved him as a kid growing up. I had many shirts with Beckham number 7 on the back. As you said, in that 99 season, he was phenomenal. When I was a little kid, actually, I met both Beckham and Ryan Giggs at a signing thing back in Reading when I was a lot younger. And it was around my birthday. I think I must have been about 8 years old at the time. And I had both signatures in a birthday card from them both. And that was an incredible day. So it's that 4 for me.
I love that, mate. And Giggs, he had a really good couple of seasons, didn't he, when he dropped in the midfield? And that shows the intelligence of the player. That we tried to do that with Rooney. He didn't have the close control for that. I didn't think he could ping a long diagonal ball, but he just didn't have the ball control to play that deep. So to be able to do that and to retrain yourself, and then it helped him with his longevity as well. And remember, Ryan Giggs had terrible hamstrings. I don't know if people remember. Like, he used to do yoga, he used to do a lot of swimming. He had really bad hamstrings. I read his autobiography, and it actually shows like how well he preserved himself to play till 40. So Pauly, I'm going to bring you in. Are you going to be a little bit different? I feel like I'm the one that's kind of looked a bit stupid, but
I'm going right. I'm going to be right up there with you. So first we have Michael Carrick sitting in there, because you got to remember, I saw Roy Keane, the tail end of Roy Keane. Michael Carrick. Next to him is going to be, well, maybe not next to him. First of all, I'm only going 3 players here. We're going 4-3-3. So not right next to him, maybe a little bit more advanced, is going to be Paul Scholes, because what he could do with the ball at his feet, nobody else can do with it. The person that comes closest to what he can do with the ball at his feet is the man who was supposed to replace him, and then it got ugly, and then he did come back, is Paul Pogba, because this is the 11 that I enjoy watching. Paul Pogba is so much fun to watching. Yes.
Okay, cool.
He is so much fun to watch when he's when he's on his game or when he's off his game, as long as he's not really off his game. 5 out of 10 Pogba is better than a lot of the other midfielders that we have. And the talent that he has on the ball, he's so much fun to watch.
I will say I agree with you. Like when he's on form, he's an absolutely incredible player to watch. But I just don't know if you've seen that at United. But carry on, mate. This is your team.
Those are my three. Those are my three.
08 Pogba or this Pogba? Pogba in 08 that we released or this Pogba, mate?
Well, we released him in 12, but like even when he first came back, people forget like how good he was that first year because we couldn't finish any of his chances, and he hit the woodwork. He hit the bar like 10 times that season. He was incredible that year, though, and I just watched him and I went, right, this is like what a signing is supposed to be. Like we're coming off all these bad Van Gaal signings, and Di Maria was a lot of fun to watch for 3 games, and then he became not fun to watch. So when Paul Pogba came in, it was like, right, this is what a United signing is supposed to look like again. I cannot wait to get up on Saturday morning and watch this guy play football.
It's fair enough. I mean, I think some people in the comments don't agree. Jamie, Pogba makes my flop 11. I think Paul Pogba has not been as bad as people say, but that's a different topic for another time, and we are not getting into that because I've spoken about Paul Pogba so much, like I just can't be asked anymore. But anyway, guys, we're going to move on. That's interesting. Let's move on to strikers, or as Pauly's going to have three up front. Look, I'm going to go for 2. I've watched a lot of Cantona, obviously all the replays and everything, and he changed Man United. We all know the impact he's had at the club. But for me, I have to choose who I've seen. It was a really tough one because Robin van Persie in that final season of Sir Alex is one of the best single, like a performance by a single player in a season. He completely carried United to the title. But it was only one season. Look, I'll have to go with Wayne Rooney first. Enough said. I feel like now people are realizing the impact and the quality of Wayne Rooney. He's now, while he played, people thought he perhaps underperformed, but I feel like now you're starting to realize how good of a player he was when you look at some of the players that have played for United in the last 7 years. And it's got to be Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think, although when Van Nistelrooy actually played for United, they actually didn't win very much. And it kind of reminded me of a situation when Liverpool had Coutinho. When they sold Coutinho, then they become a better team. And I feel like that was what happened with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Best finisher I've ever seen. Incredible finisher. I was young at the time when he was at United. I was sort of 6, 7 years old, and I was just absolutely infatuated with him. And when he left, I was devastated. But Fergie had a plan, didn't he? And he knew there was these 2 young lads called Rooney and Ronaldo who would take us to the next level, and that's what he did. Sometimes you got to sacrifice a world-class player for the betterment of the team, and I think that's what happened with Ruud. So yeah, I can't look further than Ruud and Rooney. Everyone in the comments as well seems to be agreeing. Lakesh as well, Jamie as well by a mile. Ruhan, Rooney was massively underrated. So I completely agree with that. Pauly, I'm going to come over to you because you've got 3 players. So I'm quite intrigued to see who you're putting in your front 3. I believe Ronaldo probably one of them, wasn't it?
Wayne Rooney, favorite player ever to play the game. So he gets in there because now I also don't even have to worry about where the other 2 are going to play. If we need to shunt Rooney out onto the wing, he'll do it. Then the other one will be Cristiano Ronaldo. I am torn between whether it's early Ronaldo or late Ronaldo. Like as good as Ronaldo was in 2008 when he scored 42 goals, he was so much fun when he was just that raw 17, 18-year-old winger with the step overs who would like purposely go. He'd fake a defender out of their shoes and then go back to do it again. And he danced through the whole team and then he'd shoot wide. And it was like, God, if only he could finish. But he was so much fun to watch back at that stage of his career. And then the last one, I was torn between I won't even say who I was torn between because it ultimately, comes down to one season of each of them. So we're going with Robin van Persie because besides 2008, I've never seen a more fun season where you just wanted to watch every single week and you wanted to watch what is this guy going to do this week. It was free kicks, it was headers, it was running onto the end of a long ball and just smashing it on the volley. It was beating somebody off every week you wanted to see what this guy was going to do. And do
you remember the City game with the free kick right at the end? Because it was United and City and
Rooney scored twice, and then Van Persie took a free kick that had a ridiculous deflection. the Southampton game where that header at the near post to win it when he had the hat trick after missing a penalty. I mean, it was just so much fun. And he actually, like, people forget he was doing it the next year under David Moyes. He just got hurt too much, but his production rate was basically equal. He was just always hurt, and he never recovered from those injuries. So when Van Gaal came, he didn't have it anymore. But that one year was just so much fun.
It was amazing. You got to remember as well how good Carrick was that year. Do you remember how many assists he gave to RVP? Yeah, and also, it was pretty much the situation where if United hadn't signed him and he'd gone to City, then City would have won the league. You know, it was literally on a knife edge and who was going to win the league. And what a player!
We got him from Arsenal. So like all the Arsenal fans who were like, oh, if he would have just left, like if he would have went to Juventus, like we could have enjoyed him. And like now it's like he's playing for our rival, and it was so brilliant. Yeah,
I agree. And like Jamie says here, Rooney should have won the Ballon d'Or. There was that season, wasn't it, where he scored over 30 goals? And
with his head from Valencia's crosses.
Yeah, Valencia was class that year. We won the league. We lost to Bayern. Obviously, they were under the good old Louis van Gaal. And that
we didn't win the league. We didn't win. We lost by a point. Rooney's Chelsea, 2 seasons where he scored all the goals are the 2 seasons we lost.
Yeah, that is crazy, isn't it? And Lukash here saying,
probably why he didn't win the Ballon d'Ors, because
probably.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, actually, I wish I'd watched a lot of Cole before. I wish I had as well. I mean, Mark, I don't know if you saw much of Andy Cole. You just have to look at his goal record, and him and Dwight York are incredible together as a partnership. But what is your front two?
Again, I could have given you 3 or 4 different ones. I think Andy Cole and Dwight York were phenomenal. The link-up play together was brilliant, and that's what you have all these comparisons. They're not even close. Rashford and Martial, they're not even close, and that's what you aspire them to be. But they were unbelievable. So they could be the number 2, the 2 there for me, because no one said it yet, and because the swagger that this man had, and the pivotal player that came in for Fergie was Eric Cantona. He was
the king.
The king. Oh, he was the king. And I know he was only there for a few seasons, but the swagger that man had, the goals that he scored, the fact that he got in trouble and came back and he scored on his return to Anfield and we drew 2-2, and it was just, honestly, it's making me emotional, this video, because so when you think back to all those days and the players we had, and it was beautiful to watch. And you're absolutely right with that Van Persie season as well. He was just wonderful to watch that season. It was watching every game. You're never going to get that again, and that's what really frustrates us, I think, more than anything at the moment. Now, for me, my final player has to be Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. It could have quite easily been Rooney. He is so underrated, and he was brilliant. But for me, Ruud van Nistelrooy, I remember him coming in a couple of seasons before Ronaldo did, and his finishing was just out of this world. And if anything, you can't really compare Mason and him, but they were so deadly. And if you got anywhere in the 18-yard box, either one of those two, Mason and Ruud, you're absolutely putting a bet on for them to score. And Ruud van Nistelrooy was just brilliant. I only wish that he was there for a few more years. He took United up another level where we went through a transition of 3 years, and then Ruud came in, and we were brilliant. And he was phenomenal.
It's great choices, mate. I wish I'd seen Cantona. Obviously,
brilliant.
I was young at the time, and I absolutely, when I watch him back, he was an incredible player, and I wish I'd seen him. But I think that Ruud van Nistelrooy, Ciaran, is probably, for me, the best natural finisher Man United have ever had. I mean, Mason could possibly be that, but Ruud van Nistelrooy was a killer. Lucas says Tevez. Funnily enough, Tevez was my favorite player when he was playing at United at that time, because I loved the way that he played with so much passion. Obviously, I hate him now because he's a snake. But Tevez, if he'd stayed at Man United, we'd probably be talking about him possibly, in similar vein. So he was a good player. Jamie's saying here, Ciaran, Cole and Yorkie was unreal. We won't ever see partnership like that again. I think football's changed as well. I think you're very unlikely going to be able to see a strike partnership like that. But it would be nice, wouldn't it, to go back to sort of 4-4-2 and see those strike partnerships.
Well, those two, to those two, Andy and York, you had a backup of Sheringham, who was also brilliant, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So that just says it all. They were honestly, go back and watch some videos. They were beautiful to watch.
Absolutely. They just knew each other's moves. Ciaran, what are you choosing for your final two?
This, I think, is the hardest because, as we've mentioned, there's been so many good strikers. Obviously, I think for me, one of the no-brainers was Ruud van Nistelrooy. He was one of my favourite players to watch play for Manchester United. He, even though it kind of went with the years that you had the great Arsenal team, you had Chelsea coming through with Mourinho. It was difficult, but some of the goals that he scored were phenomenal. It was the biggest shocking moment was that he missed that penalty against Arsenal, because once he got a penalty, you just, okay, that's a goal. It was very much like kind of Bruno, what he's done recently, that anytime we get a penalty, you expect that there's going to be a goal. For me, Ruud was the one player that normally when a player leaves the club, I tend to not just want to follow them every week and not always watch. Ruud was one player we used to have the TV show. I don't know if it was the Revista de la Liga or one of the other ones.
Yeah,
but I used to watch every single weekend. I used to watch it on a Sunday evening, and it would be like they would show all the different games, all the goals, and I'd watch Ruud every single week. Even when he went to Malaga after Real Madrid, he was just one of those players that you always wanted to do well because he kind of brought class around with him. He never really dragged the club's name through the mud, even though he was leaving, and he just kind of showed that class. The other one, it was difficult. Obviously, Rooney is probably one of my favorite players as well. The one sour taste out of my mouth is the amount of times that he did try and leave, and I was there at one of the games right after that happened, and the whole stadium booed him. And it's hard to ignore that, even though how good he was. It's difficult because you go back to those 98, 99 teams, and you have York, Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer. If I have to compare this as when I was a United fan growing up, who I actually had more jerseys of, where they're in the back of my jersey, I would have Ruud van Nistelrooy, and funny enough, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He was one of my favorite strikers growing up because, like they always say, the babyface assassin. Even when he was kind of older, came back from injury, it was always, you had a smile on your face when Ollie would come on, and you'd expect something to happen when he came on the pitch, because you knew when he was coming on, it was, we want to go up and score more goals. And it was one thing that I enjoyed most. Like I said, this is the hardest. You've mentioned other ones like Van Persie. You could even put some smaller ones there with, I thought Saha played well for us as well. But for me, I think while it was tough, I'm just going to go with my sentimental side and go with Ruud van Nistelrooy and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Oh, one quick thing, Ciaran, I want to ask you actually, is you talk about Wayne Rooney. Obviously, we all hated him at the time, but a bit of perspective now. Looking back,
he was right. He was right.
But
I think it was the way he went about it. Is you can do that, and especially if you wanted to be a kind of a captain for us, a captain doesn't go and say, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go to Manchester City. If you wanted something to happen, yeah, you can speak out about the club, but it shouldn't be to go behind the club to get your agent to try and reach out to Manchester City to try and get a transfer twice. That's not the way it works. And I think he kind of understood the way to after that second time, and you didn't really hear him talk about it again. But he was at the height of his kind of popularity at that time. And Man United were doing really well.
The ladies certainly loved him at the time.
Pardon?
I said the ladies certainly loved him at the time, although he might have been paying them.
So,
he was paying a lot of them.
Yeah, look, it's just one of those that it never really sat well with me, that the way he went about it. Look, we understand now why he did it. He wanted more success for the club, but it's not like the club were completely behind the likes of Man City. We were still up there. We with Ferguson's teams. Now, granted, I think the year or two afterwards we brought in Robin van Persie. It's just the way. Yeah, it's just the way it kind of happened. But for me, while he was probably one of the top 3 or 4 strikers within that time, for me, it just goes back to kind of who I enjoyed kind of growing up with United the most. It was tough not to put Cantona on there as well, because the quotes he came out with and some of the goals he scored were iconic.
The second time also kind of happened because Fergie was phasing him out, and he was, he didn't want to be here, and why would you? And if Ferguson had stayed, Rooney would have been out.
Yeah, and Moyes gave him a new contract, and that was probably the worst thing.
I mean, Woodward was like, it was the advertising and the marketing, etc. Like, we can't lose our biggest.
Was that not
star.
the third time he did it though? Because he did it twice under Ferguson. So like there was twice under Ferguson.
2010, 11, and then the next new contract was 13, 14 at the beginning of that season.
Yeah,
it was Ferguson was phasing him out.
It was the year that the second time he did it was the year that we had him, but also there was like Javier Hernandez and stuff was there as well. Because I remember the game afterwards where Rooney didn't start and Hernandez was kind of one of the main strikers.
That was the first time he did it. We had Hernandez that year.
The difference with the second time was Rooney just learned by his mistakes, because the first time it was all about money, and that's the way it was portrayed in the media through the player and the agent. The second time they tried to put a spin on it about this idea that United weren't being adventurous enough. They were worried about the ambition of the club, where no, really it was about the money, because that was at the time when City again were paying big money for players on wages. So I still think the only thing is the media spin on it the second time round was a bit different, and I think that's why he didn't. It was the same motive, but they just made it sound differently because they learned from the mistake the time around.
I'm going to read out a comment before we go to Joe, and then we've got a final topic. Thank you for all your interaction, guys. It's been awesome. Jamie says here, and I completely forgot about this. Berbatov was a joy to watch as well.
My best mate, he's
a
massive Spurs fan, and he says he's seen him live so many times. And whilst he was very disgruntled at the fact he joined United, he said he is hands down by far the best player he's ever seen live. And I agree with that. Berbatov, I can't believe I forgot him. He was a joy to watch, exactly what Jamie said.
That he is what, okay, and this is going to sound really harsh, but he's what you talk about the language sort of style. He's what current United fans think Martial is, and he would not be able to. Martial would not even be able to.
Oh my god!
No, but this is what young fans think.
Seriously. Yeah, but like if Berbatov played in this team now,
he'd be the best player by a long
he'd be the best player, but fans would hate him.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You're going to get Berbatov to press? Get out of here.
Do you not remember though? Do you not remember?
The guy used to walk out of Old Trafford with a cigarette in his mouth.
That's what I'm trying to do. But do you not remember even when Berbatov was here? Because remember, Berbatov was here and Tevez was there before. United fans loved Tevez because he worked so hard.
I didn't like Berbatov. When I didn't like him specifically for that reason, was we had such a good thing with our team, and then Berbatov came in a year later, knocked Tevez out of the team, but also changed the way we had to play. And it was like, why'd we do that? We were the best in Europe. Why are we doing this? Ronaldo wasn't as good the following year. Rooney wasn't as good. It was like, why? It just seemed like everything had to change because we signed Berbatov. And it was like, why?
And also Berbatov, I'm going to bring Joe in because we've got to move on, guys, to the final topic. But last thing I'll say is, and also, yeah, I agree with that. And the thing is, though, is that Berbatov was Fergie's signing. I think we were a bit more opportunistic with Tevez. We signed Tevez because obviously they're going down. But I do think that, well, we know how much Fergie loved Berber. And I do think, although he's a beautiful player to watch, United as a whole weren't as good when he was in the side compared to when Tevez was. Joe, I'm going to give you the floor for the final two players. Yeah. I'm intrigued actually to see who you'll choose.
Well, I'm intrigued to know just how popular Ciaran became with his parents when he told them he wanted Solskjaer and Van Nistelrooy in the back of his shirt every time. I mean, 20p a letter, mate. I mean, that's...
I know.
I mean, you could have picked Cole or something like that, mate. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, but no.
20p, that's cheap.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I used to pick the short name, so I got a name on the back. I used to have my own name, Smith or York. I had that as well, but now. No, for me, it's probably Van Nistelrooy and Van Persie. Right, Ruud Van Nistelrooy is my all-time favourite striker. I'm not saying that the two would be a brilliant partnership, but I'm just thinking Ruud was so good in and around the box. You know, he was I wish we had a poacher sort of striker like that now, to be honest, to be in the box, to pick up on the loose ends and stuff. So brilliant at that, where Van Persie could obviously score all types of goals and just that ability to score absolute worldies, to shoot from anywhere. And like Pauly said, that season Van Persie played for United. Well, he played a couple of seasons, obviously 3 seasons all told, but the season when he won the league for us. I've never enjoyed watching United like that since probably the treble season. So, I mean, kudos. Or maybe the 07-08 team when we won the European Cup again as well in the league. But no, Van Persie brought so much joy that year. And it was just a way that literally one player made the difference. If you remember the season before we lost.
I think it was because we couldn't defend. We couldn't defend at all. So it was like every game we like needed Van Persie to like dig us out of a hole.
Yeah. Well,
it wasn't a good team either. No, but it was not a very good
team.
The thing with Van Persie is though, it's just like it was literally. I mean, we talk about players making a difference to a team, but we lost the title the season before on goal difference. I think it was City, and then obviously he came in and Fergie said at the end of that year, I've said before, he said we'll never lose on goal difference again. He bought Van Persie and we smashed the league the next year, so that was brilliant. But Rude's probably my all-time favourite United player. He has to get in there. I know it sounds ridiculous, Rooney all-time goal scorer, not in there, but just again, like Ciaran, I've just got a bit of a sour taste there with the contract situation. And like I say, you might want to spin the second time around something different, but I think a lot of it was about money. So I think, that for me. And also, if we're looking at favourite players, I used to think aesthetically, as good as Rooney was and the goals he scored, he's never someone who I'd be like going to watch Wayne Rooney alone, if you know what I mean. I'm going to watch Wayne, if you know what I mean. He wasn't the nicest, he wasn't the easy.
Oh, mate, I loved it. He was like a bulldog. I loved the fact that
that depends what you like.
He wasn't graceful, was he? That's what you mean. He wasn't graceful, and he wouldn't do anything magical. He had magical moments, but there wasn't things pinpoint. It wasn't graceful.
Well, he was also in a team where there was also superstars the whole time.
Yeah,
right. So. He never. Yeah, the 2 years that they needed him to be the guy, he responded with 30-something goals.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say about Rooney as well is it's fair play to him. In terms of ego, he was always happy to take a back seat to these other players. So he took a back seat to the likes of Ronaldo and allowed him to have the limelight, score the goals, and take the applaud. It's when he first came in, he was the understudy to Van Nistelrooy. He played behind him. He was happy enough to let Ruud take the goals. And then obviously when Ronaldo went a little bit after we got Van Persie that season, obviously Van Persie came in. Rooney again was happy to take a back seat and be like, off you go, Robin, you do your thing. So I will say that about Rooney. He wasn't all about the limelight. It wasn't all about him. But they're the two strikers for me, because they offer different things as well.
What Joe just said is a really good point, and it's about Scholes also, and I think that's why people will argue that Gerrard was better than Scholes, because Gerrard had to be the alpha guy at Liverpool. He was the only one, and that was the role he had to take at Liverpool. And when Liverpool were down and they needed a comeback, it had to be Gerrard. Versus Scholes might have had that ability, but he looked around and said, like, I have Giggs, I have Beckham, I have Sheringham, I have Van Nistelrooy, I have Solskjaer. I just have to get the ball to these guys and let them do their thing. Like, he didn't need to be the guy that put the team on his back, versus Gerrard had to be that guy, and therefore he did that. And I think that's why people will associate Gerrard as being better than Scholes. But it goes to the same thing about Rooney is, oh, you need me to do Ronaldo's work, defensive work for him? Like, cool. Like, yeah, he's scoring 40 goals like this season. So obviously, yeah, I should do that because we're going to be better off if I do that. And he just wanted the team to win.
Yeah, he realized from early doors with Ronaldo what Ronaldo was all about. He saw the potential. He saw it every day in training. He knew that this guy was going to win games on his own for United. If, like Pauly said, he was allowed to just concentrate on what he did, and that's going forward and scoring goals, then let Rooney would take one for the team on several occasions. So, yeah, no, I think kudos to that, credit. And to still end up top goal scorer, even though playing second fiddle to all those strikers, says a lot about it as well, doesn't it? So
that's a great point, guys. Great points. Guys, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about the final topic. Best moment or game you've seen, which is obviously going to include United, or at Old Trafford. Now, there's so many. I'm going to talk about one at Old Trafford, and I'm going to talk about the 4-3 Michael Owen goal. In that derby. I swear to limbs, guys, absolute limbs. I swear to God, I've never felt anything like it. I've got like goosebumps now thinking about it. What a game, firstly. And this was, for me, this was a really defining game, because you saw Man City going from strength to strength. And Fergie would call them the noisy neighbours, etc., etc. And that game was just so topsy-turvy. You obviously had Darren Fletcher, those 2 goals. You had Tevez coming back as well. Ben Foster having an absolute nightmare of a game. And then you had right at the end, Rio messes up, tries to lob it over Bellamy and gets gassed. And Bellamy obviously scores the goal. He scored an absolute perler before that. Last chance of the game, and who to pass the ball but Ryan Giggs? What a pass! That's so underrated. And the control
playing in the middle of the park, not
in the middle of the park. And I'm just getting like goosebumps now thinking about it. And I've never felt anything like it. Just. No. Old Trafford's never been. I've never seen anything like that. At Old Trafford.
Did Mark know you were going to pick that game because he's put the shirt on for you as a?
It's a good point.
Yeah. Well, that was mine too, but I didn't have the luxury of seeing it at Old Trafford, mate. That must have been phenomenal.
Incredible. And I'll never forget that game as well because it was just. I was with one of my really good friends as well, so it was just so like the whole day was incredible. The football was incredible. The 4 goals. You were at home. Yeah, sorry, mate. I was with Ciaran. Sorry, mate. No, I'm kidding. But no, everything about it. And the funny thing as well is that, with Michael Owen, I know there's a lot said about Michael Owen. Obviously, he's so pro Liverpool, even though they hate him, we hate him. But you know what? When it came up with some big moments like that, he could always finish. His legs were gone. And yeah, I'll just never forget it. And the way Fergie was running down, like cheering, and then Gary Neville runs all the way down to the City fans, pretends he's warming up, but he's actually cheering. It was incredible. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever feel a moment like that again with that much that was football at its purest, absolute ecstasy. So yeah, what an absolute incredible moment. Pauly, I'm going to go to you. What is your favorite United moment?
Well, it's games that I've been to, right?
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Oh, we're going anything? Then I'm going to go with Makeda's goal against Aston Villa. I don't think I've ever screamed so loud at a match. My mom was outside working in the garden. She came inside. She thought I was crying. She thought something happened. I was crying. She thought something happened. I've never and the craziest part about this was I wasn't even watching it live. I turned that game on. That game kicked off at 11 o'clock in the morning by me. And sometime in the first half, my dad called me and he said, let's go out to lunch. And I was like, I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't say no. So I hit record on the DVR and I came back and resumed from where I was. So I think United were still 1-0 up at that point. And then they go 2-1 down and I'm just watching. And when that goal happened, yeah, I kept that game on the DVR for years after that. And I used to rewatch it all the time.
Mate, that goal was incredible. And we've been so blessed, haven't we, Mark, with so many last minute goals, and that became a bit of a trademark. But the sad thing is, not to put a downer on it, but I just don't see this United side doing things like that.
I remember when we scored to tie it, Ronaldo tied it like the 88th minute or something like that, and John Champion was the commentator, and he said, if history tells anything, United will go on to win this game. And I just yelled at my TV, shut up.
Commentators, guys.
Yeah, you shut up. We're about to lose the title because we freaking couldn't beat Aston Villa at home.
It's just, and that was a good Villa side though. That was Martin O'Neill's side. John Carew was good there. Bonlahor was good. They came fifth for a couple of seasons. Ashley Young, yeah, Younginho. So it's just. But that's the thing, Mark. There were so many incredible last minute goals, and even under Jose Mourinho, we saw quite a few of them, but we just haven't really seen that in the last few years. I feel like when we go a goal behind, we don't fight back. But that's what United's DNA is built on, isn't it? It's that Fergie time. And yeah, talk to me. Is yours a game specifically, or is it a final goal, last minute goal?
Well, I think I was going to originally go with the Michael Owen winner against City. I remember being at university at the time, and I was with 5 of my other housemates. 3 of us were United fans. They do say that 1 in 3 people support Manchester United. Facts for you there.
What, genuinely?
Genuinely, apparently 1 in 3 people are Man United.
That's so
fans. Random. Anyway, so it was me and my housemate watching it. We were in the pub, and there was a few of us there, and you were absolutely right. It was pure ecstasy. And I just 2-in and throw-in, Ben Foster having a rubbish game. This was just after the point where we'd had those 14 games without.
I was so excited for Ben Foster. I thought he was going to be so good.
He was so bad.
Van der Sar was injured, and that was one of the first games Ben Foster had to step in after the 14 game without conceding. And it was I couldn't believe it. And you saw that bloody Rio Ferdinand couldn't run to save his life. He was, by that point, he was really struggling to get back to keep up with Bellamy. And it was that goal. And I just remember a lot of the fans in the pub probably didn't want Man United to win. And I remember there was a lot of jousting going on and all this. And everyone, the silence before the goal and then the eruption was just unreal. And I wasn't in Old Trafford, honestly, mate. I am so jealous of that.
Best game. You know what it is? You actually heard everyone go, as in the guards, and then everyone just shit. And that, mate, people were like crying, people were like running down to get nearer. Like it was limbs, mate. It was just the most amazing thing. And like I used to go so much when I was younger, and like with work, and obviously I live near London. Obviously, you can tell by the accent and everything. So I haven't been able to, but I was lucky in the younger years where I used to have a season ticket. I used to go regularly when I was younger, and that was when United were incredible. And it was just, I think about it now, it was amazing, Mark.
Oh, it was again, it making me a bit emotional. It was such a great memory. Seriously, it was such a wonderful memory, that game. And I think the other one for me, just very quickly, the Champions League final. I think I was about 10. I was on the cusp of turning 11, and I kind of at that age was in and out of falling in love with Manchester United. My dad was a Spurs fan, so there was a lot of animosity there, nice animosity. And I just remember that point, me staying up late because I was young, watching that game. And I remember doing flips, or what I thought were flips, in my living room, and then going into school the next day with my other Man United friend at school. And we were besotted and beside ourselves. That was another great night.
That was incredible, guys. Get your favorite moments in. We'd love to hear them. And what I will say on that before I move on to Ciaran is that I was really young as well. How old was I? I was really young, and I remember my mum was like, "You're not allowed to watch it." And I snuck downstairs, put the TV on, and then it's a penalty shootout. And it was the best. I remember the next day, like you said, going into school, and like I was United fans. There was a lot of Chelsea fans.
How ridiculous that they used to play that final on like a Wednesday night.
That was
crazy.
10 years ago.
Was great.
Yeah, because mom's like, go to bed. I'm like, no, I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah,
and
like you have to go to school the next day because, like,
Exactly.
oh right, it's Wednesday night.
It's crazy.
Which shootout are you talking about? Which shootout?
The one against
Chelsea.
Yeah. So I was like, I wasn't that.
At Wembley.
No, the Champions League.
In Moscow.
Okay.
In Moscow.
Yeah. I was like 13, so I wasn't really that young. But mom's like, nah, like you got school tomorrow, and I just snuck down and watched it, and it was amazing. So, Ciaran, what is your favorite memory or moment?
It's difficult, and just kind of thinking back on all this, the fact that none of us can pick one from recent times shows. I think probably the last one we can probably think of, for me anyway, is Martial's goal against Liverpool is maybe the last one. Like we can think of
Rashford in Paris.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but like it was just a penalty.
Looking over to see if Maguire headed the ball down into the guy's hand against Brighton. Like, I mean, that was
against City. McTominay against City last season.
Yeah, but like when we talk about these, it's like I think the last, like as you mentioned, Haider limbs moment was probably, I would say, Martial against Liverpool. For me, it comes down to two, and one of them is very obvious and one's kind of random. But the obvious one was when we played against Man City and Rooney scored the bicycle kick that hit off really his knee, because we were terrible in that game. And then suddenly it was just like a cannon just shot out, and the stadium just erupted. It was one of those goals that you look back on Wayne Rooney's career and you're just like, wow, because he was on a really bad run of form before that game, and he hits that in the last minute, and it was just like it was crazy. You saw all the City fans literally just like you could hear a pin drop when they were singing before, but when that went in, the stadium just absolutely erupted, and people were staying behind the game for about 2 hours. People were still around the stadium after that game because everyone was so excited, because there wasn't much going on. And then suddenly the biggest action happens in the last minute of the game. It was crazy. The other one that kind of sticks out to me, and this is the more random one, was one of the seasons we got off to a really bad start. It was a season that Anderson and Nani joined. and it was the goal against Spurs.
That is incredible.
That was one of the best goals, and it was just insane because it was such a boring game. Nothing was happening, and you see him take it down. And everyone's like, he's not going to shoot from here. Takes a shot, top court. It was crazy.
He had a knack of doing that, didn't he? He used to score so quickly as well. He did against Chelsea, did against Middlesbrough. I mean, what a play! I'm going to read out Jamie's comment quickly. The 8-2 definitely is one that's.
I was at that game.
That was brilliant.
That was amazing.
One of the best games I think I went to, even though we didn't win, was you remember that Everton 4-4 game?
Yeah.
That was crazy. It made me so happy and so pissed off at the same time.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to bring you in for the final one. I mean, Ciaran, there's some two great ones. I completely forgot about. How can I forget about the Rooney one? But that's what we're saying. There's so many incredible memories. This club has given us so much. It's just, we hope that we can get back to having some of these memories again, because it just, Man United is a special, special club. No other clubs had memories like this, I can assure you. Go on, Joe.
Well, best moment for me, hands down, watching anywhere, has to be 99. The final, obviously, winning the Champions League, the way we won it as well, was absolutely incredible. So obviously that'll never be topped in terms of watching on TV and from the spectator point of view, brilliant. Also that season, there was the Arsenal game in the FA Cup, the semi-final, the Giggs goal. I mean, that was, again, unbelievable moment. But I think the best game I've ever been to at Old Trafford, I've been lucky to go to see so much and see so many, but probably has to be 7-1 against Roma. And I'll just put it in a little bit of perspective. I don't know if you remember, but
I was there, Joe.
Yeah, well, there you are. The first leg we lost 2-1, and there was a lot of angst in the crowd. I think in Roma, fans were getting beaten by the police, and it got really nasty, didn't it?
There were fights outside of Old Trafford before. I went with my granddad.
The first time I've ever gone to a game, really pumped up, thinking I might get involved in a fight here. You know what I mean? And I've got a lot of emotion going on before going the game, and then I'm thinking it's obviously about football. Then you go in the game and just the way United it wasn't the greatest Roma side, don't get me wrong, but it was just everything that came around that game, and the way that we dealt with Roma was as if just to say, look, don't mess with us, sort of thing. Know your place, know your role. This is Man United, and it was just one of the great Champions League nights.
It also wasn't the greatest United side, and there were questions about them all year, and that game kind of gave that side validity.
Yeah, exactly. And Alan Smith played that night, I think, obviously, and he was a player that split opinion. And, you look at that team, and Pauly's right. There was a lot of players. It was early Michael Carrick as well, who had a great game that night. He wasn't convincing people at that stage. I just think, it was a great night. And then just another one quickly. I was fortunate enough to go. This is not a best moment from United's perspective, but I was fortunate enough to go to the 2010, not 10, sorry. Got to get my years right. I get mixed up with the years. But the Wembley final against Barcelona. Okay,
2011, I think it was.
I was at that game, and I was just, what a delight to see that Barcelona.
2009 and 2011.
It's the only time I've left the football ground and not been angry with United for not winning, because I literally come away from that and just thought, you can't beat these guys. They were unbelievable. And I came away thinking, I'm just pleased that I've witnessed that. You know what I mean? To see it live, to be there, it was an education, and it was beautiful, to be fair. So, yeah.
Special shout out to the first Champions League game I ever watched, because they were always on when I was in school. The first Champions League game I ever watched was right after the Roma match. The first leg against AC Milan was one of the best games I've ever seen. Was simply brilliant on the day. The second goal he scored, where he got our defenders to take each other out, and then just Rooney's winner in the 93rd, 94th minute, that was one of the best games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What I will say, guys, this is gonna be a funny one just to finish with. You'll remember this. This was horrible, by the way. So I was at this game, the David Moyes season, where United lost 3-0 to Liverpool, and obviously it was shocking. But I've never seen, and this is the incredible thing about Man United, when you go to Old Trafford, and I don't think there's many big clubs, and maybe it might be seen as a bad thing. Maybe it's a bit sentimental, but I don't think it is. United's fans at Old Trafford will always get behind the team no matter what. We were getting beat 3-0. It could have been 5 or 6, and we just sang 20 times through the whole game. And then at the end, I was in the Stretford End, pretty much nearly the whole of Stretford End waited and we're singing 20 times and clapping the players off. We just got smashed by Liverpool. And this is a thing that I don't think there's a more of a loyal fan base in the stadium at a big club than Man United supporters. And I think that's what we've got to appreciate that. And it was a difficult day. That was a horrible day. That was a long way back as well, back home as well. That was horrible. But I just thought that the fans were incredible that day. And it showed to me as well that, people can say what they want about Man United fans, but they'll always support the team, win, lose, or draw. And we've got an amazing club. And guys, to all the listeners, I really hope you've enjoyed this. It's a little bit different today, but it's a bit of a trip down memory lane. It's also shown me and maybe the other guys as well that United's recent years have been really, really bad. A shout out obviously to the Martial goal against Liverpool. The shout out to the Martial goal against Everton at Wembley in the semi-final. That was amazing as well.
Yeah.
And then the Zlatan goal in the final in the League Cup.
Lingard goal in the FA Cup final as well.
Yeah, exactly. So look, this is an incredible club, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed this. Pauly, thank you very much. Marc, Joe, and Ciaran, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. And to all the listeners, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Twitter as well, and on Instagram. And make sure that you help us get to 1K because we have got a special giveaway when we hit that number. So we will see you next time.